once again, welcome to another live edition of the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast, a.k.a. The Whip Show. You know, we had Sonny on here a couple weeks ago. He said, we're not ready for TV. That's what we're doing, the internet. Speaking of Sonny Onoo, we got his co-host on the show tonight. We'll talk to him in a second, but you know what it is. I am Deshaun Whip Dog Whipple, and I am here with my tag team partner.
Back again, devastating Daryl Pace. I was on a brief hiatus, getting prepared for our shows this week. So I'm excited to be back in the control room. I let you loose by yourself. Hopefully we didn't get fired or pulled, did we?
Man, listen, we still on the air, surprisingly enough. Thank you to Mr. Cody Hawk. That's going to be a great show when you guys get a chance to listen to that one. But, yeah, it was hard by myself, man. But speaking of Cody Hawk, and I want to say this to all the independent promotions out there. I know some of you guys are starting back of doing no-fan shows and things of that nature. You know what it is. So if you want to sponsor the Whip Show, get an advertisement for your upcoming shows, hit me up. The Whip Show Podcast at gmail.com. But enough about self-promoting us, because we got a hell of a self-promoter on the show tonight. This man, how can I start? He is a commentator with his partner Sonny Onoo on DDT Pro, which we got going on the TV right now. He also works for Tokyo Joshi. This man works, or should I say, makes all the sales for Disney. And this man had one of the hardest jobs in the world, former creative writer on the writing team for World Wrestling Entertainment. Can we give it up for Mr. Rob Hochman? How you doing today, sir?
Hey, guys. How are you? Good to be with you today.
I am doing well, man.
I'm excited to have you here.
That was quite an introduction. I don't know if I can follow that going forward. We might as well just stop now. You rattled down the resume. Thanks for coming. We'll talk to you next week.
Oh, you got to bring the fire today, baby, because, this one is live. This one is live, and, you got one of the toughest jobs in the world. So, but let's start off here. Rob Hochman. First of all, did I say your name correctly? Help me out.
Said like a K. Say it with a K. H-O-C-K. Hochman.
Rob Hochman.
That's it.
Now, what brought you to the wrestling business? Did you grow up liking wrestling? Did you just fall into it? How did that happen?
Yeah, no, I definitely started liking wrestling in the, just like everybody else with the Hulk Hogan's, and the Roddy Pipers and things like that. And when I was at Seton Hall University, I was in charge of their activities and stuff like that they put on at the college. And it was right about the time when WWE or F started their Attitude Era, the Austin era had started, that sort of thing. One of the things we did at school was we would buy massive tickets, a group of tickets, like 100 tickets, get busloads, and we would go to Madison Square Garden, whether it was for a Knick game, a Ranger game, WWF, that sort of thing. When that took off, we couldn't get the tickets anymore in mass quantity. So I came up with the ingenious idea to put a show on at the school. And I brought in King Kong Bundy and Iron Sheik and Tito Santana, along with a bunch of other guys. Low key busted his face on our floor. But Bundy was so impressed with everything, he actually called WWE. And that started the snowball.
Nice, man. Oh, shout out to King Kong Bundy, rest in peace. I actually got to work with him myself back in the day. Great
Chris.
guy.
Love Chris.
Now, let me ask you this. So you said you started off, you promoted, man.
Yeah.
So once you promoted the show, seeing that side as a green bean, how did it make you feel, man? Because you learn you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with a little bit different than just watching it as a fan, man.
You ain't kidding, and learning the goings and comings of the locker room, if you will. Everyone's got a different personality. Everybody's got their own different way in which you have to coddle them, if you will. From the indie guys all the way on up to the big guys. It was definitely I hit the ground running, to say the very least, because it was off to the races from there. We actually wound up doing 3 shows there, and they were all huge successes, and that was it seemed to get easier. And then as I went on and I worked with guys like Jeff Jarrett, who obviously with his lineage and working with TNA and everything like that, he kind of guided me. Disco Inferno guided me, watch out for this, watch out for that. And the biggest person to who was an influence with me was Road Dogg Jesse James.
Nice. I know you got some good Road Dogg stories too. But so you go to college. I'm sorry if I missed it. What was your major in college?
Sports management.
So it was sports management.
Yep.
So did you, when you started doing this, you're doing shows, you start meeting the guys, connecting, did you really think you're going to have a career with this though? Or did you think, I did a couple of them, that's it?
I didn't think I was going to have a career until, like I said, when Bundy made the phone call, and I was like, yeah, whatever, who are you calling? And he said, kid, they're going to call you. And I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure. Okay, they're going to call me. And I was actually working for the Giants. I did public relations for the New York Giants for 6 years. And when I was working with the Giants, I actually was turning WWE down. And Pat Hanlon, who's the vice president of the New York Giants, called me into his office, and he said, sit down, we got to talk. And I said, what's the matter? And he says, I know all about the people in Connecticut calling you. And I said, okay. And he goes, what do you want to do in football? What do you want to do here at the Giants? And I told him, at the time when I was young, I wanted to be a general manager. Well, heck, I want to be like you, Pat. And he laid it out as honest as he could for me. He said, you know how many people would have to die in this office for you to die massively right now, just everyone drop dead for you to potentially have a shot at this job. He said, and then on top of that, they would look elsewhere anyways. He's like, this, there's so many things that go on there. He said, so here's what I'm going to do for you. He said, you're either going to quit today or I'm going to fire you. And you're going to go to Connecticut. You're going to do something really good up there. And my whole goal when I was with the Giants was I wanted a Super Bowl ring. And he told me, if and when we win the Super Bowl, I promise you on my life, I will call you and you will get a Super Bowl ring. And when we beat the undefeated Patriots, I got a phone call about maybe a month or 2 after. And he said, you might want to go to a jeweler and get sized. And in July, FedEx truck came down my street with a bunch of cops. Sirens were blazing, and there was the Super Bowl ring. But that's the long way around how we got to wrestling.
That's dope, man. But now before we go to wrestling, can I see it? Pause. Can I? Your ring.
Yeah, I got it over there. You can,
brother.
I got it. It's in this room. It's right over there in my case. You want me to go get it?
Yeah, please do. I want to see it, man.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second
here. Never had a
here.
Super Bowl ring on the show before.
Yeah, never had
that. You got it. Hang on.
When this guy started with the Iron Sheik, man, I don't know where you go from there.
Right, man.
He said it got easier, so it get harder.
Thing back on here. All right. Well, the first one, this is when I actually did work for them. This is the NFC Championship ring.
Beautiful.
And that was when we lost to Baltimore, but we beat Minnesota 44-0. And then this is the undefeated Super Bowl when we beat the undefeated Patriots.
You heard that? Oh, we're going to screenshot that one right there. Y'all see that? You got a Super Bowl ring right here on the Whip Show, man.
Look at that, man.
And you guys are special because I don't take that out of the trophy case for nothing.
Oh, my God. Love you for that right now, man. You're my number one guest. Just don't tell Sonny you said that.
Don't tell Sonny.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. So with that being said, continue us on with your story. So they let you go with the Giants. Yep. Where do you go from here?
To Connecticut. Went up to Connecticut. Started working, learning. Still learning everything. As much experience as I thought I had, that's a whole nother ball of wax. That was, and you know, having some of the guys who looked out for me, like Road Dogg and Kevin Nash, you know, put me over, if you will, to the higher ups. It definitely put me in the right position.
No, help set the stage. Now, what year is this that you're coming in, and then once you start us off with that, what your first role is?
Well, I can tell you, first role was working with Crime Time. We did the vignettes for the 4 vignettes that laid them out, setting them up before they started wrestling. We did we robbed the 7-Eleven. We beat the guy up in the alleyway on the bicycle, and you know, we were coming up with this. And you know, you got to know Vince. He's sitting there at his table and he's laughing. Ha, that's funny shit. And you know, and I was like, all right, well, as long as we're not bordering on offending anyone, okay. And he's like, nah, make it funny. Okay, great. Then that's what we're gonna freaking do. And and it was off to the races. And working with them was awesome. Working with them was amazing.
Now, with that being said, you just touched on it. We're going to go here later, but you already talked about working close proximity with the boss.
Yep.
How intense was it, man? I got to know. How intense was it?
It is extremely intense. It's long hours. It's crazy hours. It is, but you know, if you ask Sonny, he'll tell you that the longer I stay up, the more delirious I get. There was definitely a lot of alcohol that we would drink at night, red wine bottles. Shout out to Kevin Nash with the Camus. And that was when we just got crazy creative. And it really was a lot of, you know, that old saying, throw enough shit against the wall, let's see what sticks.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing enough of that right now. I think that they're just focused on one thing. And you have to, the way I always looked at it was, you know, like with a football game. When I was doing broadcasts with the Giants, you had to be prepared for this to happen, that to happen, the other thing to happen. You had to have at least 3 scenarios, okay? And I don't think they have that. And that was always what we had. If the crowd goes this way, we're going to go this way. If the crowd goes this way, we're going to go that way. And you would be out there in the crowd and you would feel it, you would hear it. And the crowd then, different than the way it is now, sadly, I think we have more smart marks, if you will, that want to tell you what they want. Look at this. Look who's calling right now. He doesn't even realize. Sonny Onoo. Damn, watch this. You should be watching the damn TV show. I'm on the show right now. And I hung up on him.
I'm trying to tag us now.
Let me understand something. Like now, who else is in writing positions right now? Is this the Heyman? Bruce?
No, I was with Russo. I was with Russo. I was with Brian Gerwitz, or Gerwartz, however he wants to say his name today. Yeah, so I had a little bit of Russo. I had a little bit of Gerwartz. I had Bruce. And there were a lot of other people that were under Bruce and Russo that I would work with, because they had, you know, guys upon guys upon guys. It's no longer just 6 guys anymore in a room.
Right.
And what's the camaraderie like? Because we know the Russo and Cornette infighting. I mean, what was going on with the politics behind the scenes with these guys?
Everybody had their cliques. You know, the clique wasn't just the Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall thing. It was, you had writer cliques, you know, and you knew who you could schmooze, if you will, to get in Vince's ear. And you knew, and working with Vince and being in a booking room with Vince, you knew right away what made him tick. If you could make him laugh, or if you were doing something shady, he popped for that. He loved, like I was saying, the vignettes with Crime Time. He loved that. He thought that was the greatest thing in the world because it was funny and it was stupid. Who would rob a 7-Eleven and look in the camera as they're spray painting it and then giving a shout out to their boys in the hood and all this stuff. You know what I mean? He loved it. He was like, that's so stupid. It's great. And that was, you knew Russo was always the, like, Jerry Springer type. Yeah. And I didn't really work too much with the girls. That was his bread and butter. That was his baby. And no one really even came up with ideas or anything for the girls, because it was always Vince with a bra and panties match this week, or we're going to roll around in chocolate sauce this week, or God knows what else we were doing at the time.
Now let me ask you this, though, because you spoke on Mr. Russo. Now, it's been said over the years, some people think he was okay. Some people think he was off his rocker. Some people thought he was good as long as he had a filter. Mm-hmm. We had Scott Hudson on the show previously, and Scott Hudson actually said he was a fan of Vince Russo's work. Mm-hmm. You work closely with Mr. Russo. What do you say now? Does he deserve all the heat that he gets right now, man?
He was great in WWE or WWF the same way any of us were. And the reason that any of us could be considered good is because we had a guy at the top named Vince McMahon that would listen to everything and then hone it in on how we were going to. If there was no Vince McMahon, Vince Russo would have run roughshod with so many stupid things in WWE. And you saw that, I think, when he got to WCW, when he gets to TNA. He may have high ratings. He had them for a week or two because he was the new toy. But when he was in WWE, WWF, you had Vince McMahon who honed you in and brought you back down to earth. As far as, well, we can't go that crazy. We can do this, but we can't do this. So why don't we try and figure out how we're going to get here? And, Vince had great ideas, but don't let him fool you. I was in the back. I'll never forget. We were in the Meadowlands, and it was for Raw, and he came up to Billy and Road Dogg, and he gave them, like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And he gives it to Road Dogg. Now, you all know Road Dogg just went off the cuff, and he's great on the mic. So he didn't need a script. And Russo gives him this script, and he goes, well, what am I going to do with this? And Russo says, I need you. This is exactly what you're going to say tonight. And he took the paper, he crumpled it up, and he hit Russo in the forehead with it and said, nah, we're going this way. And he's like, well, Vince is going to tell you. And he goes, go ahead, go tell him to tell us. I'm not saying that crap. We're going to do this. And sure enough, the music hit, and he went out and did what he does. So don't let Russo fool you. He didn't create The Rock. He didn't create Stone Cold. He didn't create D-Generation X. He may have helped with different ideas, but hell, we all did. So, I don't take credit for any of those guys. Right. I may have said on a road trip, in Rhode Island with Road Dogg, hey, that what would be funny? What if you guys did this? And we would drink a little, and he would laugh and go, yeah, that'll work. Let's get Billy in on this. Or Ronnie, when they went to TNA, Brian and Ronnie all the time. What do you think we can do, Rob? What do you think we could do here? What do you think we could do there? And, I may come up with an idea, but they would run with it. They were the running backs. They would take the ball and they would run.
Yeah. Nice. Now, you talked about something just about that script thing, and we've never heard that. So that's one exclusive you gave us already. But, the guys now are so scripted, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, every legend we've had on the show says the same thing. Yep. They don't know how the guys can deal with it. It's crazy to not give, like I said, and we haven't aired the Cody Hawk episode, but he kind of touched on Moxley, talking about Moxley, and Moxley had talked about it many times. He just couldn't do it anymore. He could not be the character they wanted. He had to be John Moxley. Yeah. But with that being said, what do you think about that, man? When did they shift and start wanting to write everything down for these guys and turn them into full-fledged actors and not performers, not just wrestlers that had to perform.
Well, the problem with that was a lot of the talent that was coming in, they didn't know how to cut a promo. And if you can't talk, that was one of the things that Brian always loved about me. He could just give me something, anything, cut up on Daryl and just hit him with a couple of these points. And I could go for 10 minutes and totally tear you up. These guys today and girls, they can't cut a promo. So what we're having to do is we're having to write every little detail for them. But then the problem with that is I wasn't very good at memorization in school.
Okay.
And that's what you're asking these people to do, is memorize a 3-page document and literally memorize it word for word. Back when Austin and Rock and Road Dogg and Billy and Hunter and all of them were there and they were rocking and rolling, they got a Post-it note, literally a Post-it note that just said, hit this, hit this, hit this, and the final one was whatever pay-per-view we would go into. So it would be, that Rock would know he would have to hit Austin with something about, being a dumb redneck and he was going to take him down to the Jabroni Drive and this and that and the other thing. And then he would say, and I'm going to do it at Royal Rumble this Sunday, live on pay-per-view. And that would be it. And he could stretch that 5-minute interview time doing those 4 bullet points that you gave him. Nowadays, they don't know how to cut a promo. And you see it all the time. If you go to these, like these wrestling schools and stuff, when they have like guests in there, guest speakers and things like that, the first thing the talent will always say is stand up and cut me a promo. That was the one thing Brian always said whenever he did any of those seminars. It would be stand up and cut a promo on me. Just hit me with whatever you got. And you would see the kids just stare and go, or they would start to steal from a Hulk Hogan or a Rock, or let me tell you something, brother. Here's what and he'd be like, that's not you.
Daryl, I know you got a question, but let me ask this. I want to add this here right quick, if you don't mind. It's funny you said that, Rob, because back in 2010, I actually was down to Florida Championship Wrestling. I had a tryout myself, and Dusty was down there.
Mm-hmm.
What he did was he took the top guy in the class, the wrestler, put him in the ring, the guy, and he took the lady and put him in the ring. Obviously, we expected him to do what? Have a match. But you know what he told him to do? I want you to pick her up like you were going to meet her at a bar and try to get her home.
Yep.
So he was trying to get the guy, yes, you can wrestle. We know that. But make us believe that you can pull this woman at a bar and this woman can either go with it or not, but make us as fans buy in. So I'm glad you said that, man.
Yeah.
And that young man had a very hard time doing that, being a personality, not just the big muscle guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that was the thing. I mean, Brian would always laugh with me when we would be on the road. He would say, if only you could put on like 100 pounds. He's like, man, we could do something. He's like, because your mouth just doesn't stop, and we, one of the early times when I started working with them, we flew into an airport and Rock kept picking on me and picking on me and picking on me. And Road Dogg said to me, he said, no one, you're going to have to stand up to him and mouth off to him, smack him in the face, or no one's going to respect you. And I was like, what the f are you talking about? You see the size of him and the size of me? And he goes, don't worry. He's like, just cut up on him. So I was like, all right. And he's like, don't worry. We got your back. We got your back. Nobody's going to do nothing to you. We got your back. So we got to the airport. The bags are going around. This was before we had private planes. We flew Delta, and we were in the baggage carrying area with everybody else. So The Rock is standing on the baggage carrier area announcing, The Rock is leaving the airport. The Rock is now leaving the airport. And now he's starting with me. He's like, oh, what are you going to do with your little DX stupid friends over there? You're going to do this. You're going to do that, da-da-da. And so I tore into him. You know what The Rock's going to do? The Rock's going to go to so-and-so's house, and The Rock's going to go take a nap because The Rock is too goddamn lazy to go out and do an autograph session like the rest of us are going to do because he's too high and mighty. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to take your nap, and you're going to start dreaming, and little Steph is going to sit on your face, and you're going to go la, 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 and the fat bitch is going to get excited.
Woo!
He turned white as a ghost. You could see his fist clench up, but he did like that Jericho thing where he was like, and then he looked over and he saw Billy and Brian and Hunter were just standing like this. And he goes, "That's it, I'm out of here." And he grabbed his stuff and he left. And all the boys just started clapping. They all just started clapping. And Brian was like, "That's it. He's not going to mess with you ever again." So, you know.
Oh, man. Daryl, I know you had something for him.
And that's one of the things about the business. We've got wrestlers who can't wrestle without a written script. They can't talk without a script. Now, back in the day, Kamala just passed away. And the story with Kamala was he couldn't work, so they gave him a gimmick where he didn't need to know how to work because he was from Africa, right? And he never knew how to wrestle before, and so they worked around it. Or back in the day, they would give somebody a manager who couldn't talk. He would talk for them. So you still got through it. You didn't force me with a script. And so why is that happening? Like, what's missing today? Like, why can't we use those same things? Okay, Daryl can't work. He can't talk. Let's do this. It explains why he can't work or talk.
Well, let's take a case in point. Let's take talent that is phenomenal. Asuka, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kairi Sane, who just left. They're phenomenal workers, but you'd have no idea what the heck they're saying because they can't speak English. So when I reach out to the powers that be over there and say, I've got a Japanese guy who kind of did this managing thing once before and could be the advocate, if you will, because we were using that name with Paul. What do you think about that? Most people liked it, and then the guy who writes the checks didn't like it. So now you're stuck with guys that sound like they're taking a massive crap, that they're backed up for 10 days, because that's what Asuka and Shinsuke sound like when they're cutting a promo. And I think, and no offense to them, but that's, that's just what it comes out like. But as far as why everything has to be scripted, I think it's, people go over on their times because they don't call anything in the ring anymore. And when we're doing a 2-hour and 3-hour TV show, you got to make sure everything's down to a science. At the same time, though, I don't know how I could give you 5 pages and say, Daryl, tonight you're going to fight me. And here's from the moment your music hits to the moment the bell rings, this is exactly how it's got to go. You have to be able to call it in the ring. Back in the day, I'd have to be able to get you in a headlock and say off the ropes, up, down, hit me with the boot, and things like that. Not this. All right, so in the back, I know and that's part of the problem too. You see guys in the back now. You see them looking into the sky and they're going, all right, I got to do a headlock, and then he's going to hit me with this, and then I'm going to go over here for that, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go over here, and No, because what happens if the crowd doesn't want you to work the arm or work the leg? What if they start chanting boring, and in your head, you're not thinking about the fact that they're chanting boring. You're thinking, I've still got 18 minutes worth of headlocks and leg drops that I got to do.
I got 2 things to say behind that. One, and it's perfect. That's why people always, they want to shit on Hogan. But the shift Hogan and The Rock did at WrestleMania was nothing more than them noticing where the crowd was going and rocking with it. Yeah. It ended up being one of the top matches in WrestleMania history.
Now think about exactly what you're saying. Think about if I gave Rock and Hogan, 10 pages to memorize for their match, and it was all Rocky goes over, and when that shift happens, like you're talking about, they just go, screw it. I'm supposed to hit you and drop the elbow and do this and do that and do the other thing. Instead of, we had that iconic moment where Rock looks the one way, Hogan looks the other. And literally, because I've talked with Hulk about this, they actually mumbled in the ring, oh, shit. We're going to have to go a different direction. And that was a result of what you got. And you got something iconic.
Man, big that. It was funny. I was just watching the boy Hannibal. He had Al Snow. Shout out to Hannibal. He's been a guest, great guy, friend of the show. And he had Al Snow, and that's what Al Snow was saying about this pandemic wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They're wrestling with no crowd. And he said the guys almost are wrestling for themselves, too.
Yeah.
They're not really wrestling to pull the audience in. All they see is did the script, did the match, high five in the back because they did all this stuff, trying to pop Dave Meltzer, and that's it. You know what I mean? What do you think about that?
It's silly, but they have no crowd to feed off of. So, you know, even if you have an agent working with them that says, hey, if they start to lean on this guy, then you got to go this way. And if they start to lean the other way, you got to go this way. You know, I can tell you, gone are the days of having two outcomes. We used to have two outcomes for specifically what you were talking about with Hogan and Rock. If it goes this way, because we've got two guys that, let's say we had two guys that were very similar to each other. You know, that the crowd could love them or hate them, like an Austin and a DX. If you had DX Triple H fighting Stone Cold Steve Austin, we always had to have two ways to look at it. Because what happens if Hunter does something where he tells Austin to suck it, he does the crotch chop or something crazy, and the fans pop for it? Now they're chanting for Hunter, and Hunter's the one that's got to take the fall. Well, no, we're going to have to shift it a little bit over here. We're going to go this way now. Those guys were smart enough to know, okay, I hear it. They're shifting. We got to go. We got to go. Or if the crowd is dying, even though you were given 10 minutes for your match, if the crowd starts to die in 7, you bring it home in 8. You don't stretch it out another 3 minutes where you've got people going, boring, boring. You know, that's just.
Rob, you've been a part of indie shows. What do we call that? Getting your shit in. They don't care. They just want to get their shit in.
That's the problem, though. That's not wrestling. This isn't Spot Fest Mania. This is I want to entertain the crowd. I want to entertain the people. You know, and if we lose sight of that, then who gives a crap that you can do a 460 off the top rope?
Yeah, I agree.
No, question here. You know, when we started with Raw, you know, it was an hour. Then on time, Monday Night Wars, they go to 2 hours. Now we're 3 hours. We had, you know, a few years ago, we had a 7-hour, 8-hour WrestleMania. I know I was there. It was like 24-hour WrestleMania. What's going on here? Because you're writing the show.
Money.
And I don't know how you, I mean, Breaking Bad was never 3 hours long. I mean, if it was 3 hours long, they'd probably lose me at some point because that's a long time to watch anything. Mm-hmm. What's going on when you're trying to book a 3-hour show and write content for 3 hours for these guys?
It's hard, but it's money. It's you know, if we make this much money with 1 hour, we got to go to 2. And now we're a publicly traded company. The shareholders, everything is about money. Everything is about dollars and cents. Everything is about turning a profit, turning a dividend, turning, you know, everything that we need. And while I'm sure they're regretting being 3 hours, at the same time they're going, we're getting paid for 3 hours. So Fox gave us, you know, however many billions of dollars. They want 2 hours. And USA wants 3 hours. And that's, you know, USA isn't calling up saying, can you take it down to 2 hours? USA is not calling. They're saying we're getting commercial revenue. We're getting advertising revenue. We don't care that your 3rd-hour segment falls by the wayside. We don't care that no one gives a crap about the Shane McMahon Raw Underground. They're saying, you know what? Enough people are buying the rating is where it should be enough that they're getting USA is getting advertising dollars. They don't care. They're not gonna say tone it down. You know, Mickey Mantle doesn't give his Mike Trout doesn't give his home run bonus back if he starts to tail off. So they're not gonna tone it down.
Now, a follow-up to that, because we've heard different things. Like when you're putting these shows together, like sometimes people online will say, well, the show was changed an hour, 2 minutes before the show.
Oh, yeah.
No one knew what was going on. We used to hear about Nitro a lot. Is this really true? Like how far in advance are these things laid out, and how often do these last-minute changes happen? Like,
I've seen the headset. When you see the pictures of like Vince wearing the headset in the back with Hunter and things like that, they actually have radioed the referee and said on the next rest hold, switch it. Put this guy over instead of this guy.
Wow.
And flipped it that way. That's how, I mean, yeah, the Nitro things were crazy, you know, the stories and everything like that. WWE did the same thing. Yeah, you know what? That's not going to work, but we've got everything written. But back when I was working there, you didn't really have too much stuff written. So if you told me we're going to have to put Austin over instead of Rock tonight, it didn't cause that much of a tweaking. Because both guys knew how to call it in the ring, number one. And number two, they only had 5 bullet points that they were going to get in. So all it is changing the final song that we're going to play at the end of the concert. That's all it is. You know, so nowadays, you change it, you change the story now, we got a big problem because now we're rewriting 15, 20 pages for AJ Styles to go out and recite. And AJ Styles just spent all day memorizing what he was going to have to say tonight, and now you just gave me 20 more pages and said everything you have in your head, just take it out and now put this in your head. It's impossible.
You actually got a question on the table. And by the way, guys, I know we've been talking, but man, we've been waiting for this guy. So we've been doing a lot of talking. We apologize. But if you got questions, feel free to put them right in the comments. But you do have a question from my boy Brian Meade. Shout out to him and his HKW. He is a writer as well, but he got a question for you. He said, wrestling writing is my dream job. Any advice for getting into the writer's room?
Yeah, start with your local indie shows. Start with, and then offer your services. Don't always look to get paid. Offer your services to, you know, some of the bigger, you know, if you've got bigger companies in your area, especially people with TV. Nowadays, everyone's got a show on FITE TV. You know, so I would offer up my services to my local companies and things like that. Everyone's always looking for someone with fresh ideas. I have a friend of mine, Eric, who is out in California. And he asked me the same thing, and he had a couple local promotions that were in his area in California. He started helping them out, and he's now he's their head idea guy. So, you know, everything leads to something. So don't ever, you know, just start small and build that foundation.
Nice, nice. Well, I want to take a pause right here because I know you got an announcement. I want at least, because you got one or two.
Well, we'll see how many we want to go through.
Well, I got my another question, but I want you to drop one right now. So give me one of your big announcements right now.
We're gonna drop a huge one right now. In the background there, you have DDT Wrestling. As you know, Sonny and I did the DDT Pro pay-per-view back in July. There's another we got another DDT Pro Wrestling pay-per-view coming up in September. It is September 27th, Sunday night. This one's a good one because it's at night, starting nighttime Eastern time, so it's like midnight Eastern. So we don't have to do a 4:30 in the morning pay-per-view, which is good. But a few days before that, here's the big one. September 22nd on FITE TV, there's a company called Noah Pro Wrestling, and Sonny and I will be the broadcasters on FITE TV for Noah Professional Wrestling. The biggest company next to WWE is going to be on FITE TV, and we're going to be doing the broadcast. And I couldn't be more excited. Those guys are phenomenal.
You heard it. You heard it. Pro Wrestling Noah. They're going to be doing it. They're commentary, man. We done have both of them on the show. Daryl, I'm official now, man.
Yeah, that's fantastic news, man. Because I've seen a lot of Noah, you know, on YouTube. I haven't seen a lot of it, you know, here in being able to see it in the U.S. So this is going to be an excellent opportunity.
It's going to be amazing. We're super excited. And if anyone that's seen the DDT pay-per-view that we did back in July, those guys, I said this from the start, I even said it on the pay-per-view, that was the most entertained I was, even the fact that I was calling it, but it was the most entertained I was watching 2.5 hours of wrestling that I've been in I can't remember how long. It was phenomenal. They have some hokey matches. You know, we've got some gimmicky type matches, which are funny, but their main event for the title and their sub-main event was just tremendous. And they have a mixture of the girls and the guys together, and their girls that wrestle are phenomenal. I mean, they put the boots to the guys, and they're not afraid to take the bumps from the guys either. It's tremendous, and I can't wait for Noah. This is tremendous for Fight TV. We're super excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited because I know it's going to